It's the talk with Micah and friends. Well, it's the talk with Micah and friends. All the friends turn to gather around now. We're gonna have a real good time. Talk with Micah and friends. It's the talk with Micah and friends. It's the talk with Micah and friends. Got all your friends and gather around now. They're gonna have a real time. It's the talk with Micah and friends.
Well, hello there, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Talk with Micah and Friends. If you see me going up and down, that's because, I got to make sure that I'm staying on schedule. But hey, everyone, again, welcome back to another episode of the Talk with Micah and Friends. It's me, Micah Pierce. Appreciate each and every one of you for joining in. Make sure that you share this live. This particular episode is episode number 84, and this is Relationship Talk. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in and will be tuned in later on, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, using the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone, or blogtalkradio.com. Again, please make sure that you share this live because, again, you never know who may need to hear this conversation in regards to relationship talk. So a few years back, 6 years to be exact, it was like February, maybe it was like right before Valentine's Day, February of 2014. I had the pleasure of sitting down with 4 same-sex couples, and we unpacked a lot during the conversation, from keeping a successful relationship, rising above adversity, and the temptation that comes within the LGBTQ community, or just being, married, or, well, I wouldn't say married because they weren't married, but just being with someone, so there's always temptation or whatever. So we talked about that. So I wanted to revisit the conversation, but at a different approach. The couples I interviewed then, again, were dating. They weren't married. They weren't engaged. But tonight's guests are all married and doing pretty well for themselves. We often see, hear, and witness couples not surviving to the point of getting engaged or married. Sometimes we are forced or reminded of the pitfalls of relationships within our community. But rarely do we ever celebrate the success of same-sex relationships. And that's what I wanted to do tonight. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. My hope and my intention are that through this conversation, that we all learn not only more about the couples themselves, but how, when, and if we are in a relationship, we truly know how to push through and make those things work versus giving up, because that's something that I think we've all personally seen over the years, just, from our own experiences or other people's experiences. And because we do have this stigma in the community that committed relationships aren't feasible in this community. But I know that they do. I know a lot of couples. And so the couples that I have on tonight, some of them I know, some of them I don't. Some of them I was recommended by a very close friend of mine. So I hope that my goal and my intention tonight does come across. And again, make sure you share this live. So let's go ahead and get tonight's show started. I'm going to have each of my couples start out with their names, where they currently reside, let us know how long they've been together, and how long they've been married. Now, before I actually bring them on, I do want to, if you see on the screen here, if you are watching and you would like to comment or you have a question for the couples on tonight, you can visit StreamYard.com/Facebook. That will grant StreamYard access. And then if you like, your name and all that stuff will appear. Okay, so again, visit StreamYard.com/Facebook if you'd like your name and comment to appear on the live Facebook show feed. So the first couple that I'm going to bring on, hopefully they see themselves on the screen because because there they go. Hold on 1 second. Let me unmute you. All right.
Hello.
Hey, so the question was, provide us your name. Where do you currently reside? How long have you all been together? And how long have you all been married?
So I'm Joe. And I'm Dustin. We live in Zephyr Hills, Florida, outside of Tampa, Florida. And we've been together for going on 6 years and married 2 years. May 20th, this coming May.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. I can't wait to hear your responses and your conversations surrounding relationships. Okay. The next couple we're going to bring on, here they are, and we're going to take them off. Hold on 1 second. There we go. All right. Hold on. There you go.
Okay. I'm Christopher Ford, and this is Adam Ford, and we've been together about 3 years and married for a little over 6 months.
3 years and together for 3 years and married for a little over 6 months?
Yes.
Okay. Adam, did you want to say something? You look like you
No, I was going to say the exact same thing. So.
Okay. Well, thank you all. And you're in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, we reside in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And we're going to bring on the next couple. We're going to go ahead and get everything started here. Take you guys off. Hold on. There you go. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, my name is Carmen Wilson and this is my wife Nicole Wilson. We reside right here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have been together for 14 years and going to be married for 10. This is our 10th year in June.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have some variety here and I love it. So I'm going to bring everyone on. Give me 1 second. I want to pick the best layout. Let's see. Okay, there we go. All right, so everybody can hear me good, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I am a firm believer that first impressions are lasting impressions. We hear that a lot, okay? So my question to you all, and raise your hand whoever wants to go first, and I'll bring you on. What was your first impression about your partner? And then tell us where you both met. So, like, one says, okay, their impression, the other says their impression, and then you can tell us, basically, when you guys met or where you met. So who wants to go first? Okay, go ahead, Dustin and Joe.
Okay, so we met on social media, but we originally met, it was maybe 8 years prior to. He was in a thing, I was in a thing, just wasn't there. So fast forward 8 years. We met back on social media and then we kicked it. And then he took me to a restaurant. And one thing that really impressed me was that it wasn't all about him. He let me open up and talk. And I kind of talked a lot, which kind of, I guess, impressed him because he walked away knowing a lot about me that day that he didn't previously know. So I would definitely say the impressed part was the fact that he allowed me to kind of share who I was with also telling who he was as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say that through him talking a lot really made me feel that he cared and was interested and wanted to get to know me. And that was the biggest impression I had on him, is he was interested in opening up and sharing about his personal life and asking me questions, which sometimes isn't easy to do from my experience in a gay relationship, is getting someone to talk. You're always forcing a conversation.
And you said you guys met on an app or just on the internet?
On an app.
On an app, okay. And because you hear about people meeting on apps, but then you don't hear we met on the app and we've been together for a long time. That's just something that you don't really hear. So when you met him on the app, I mean, I'm not trying to dig all deep and stuff, but when you met him on the app, was it your profiles? Did they say that you were looking for a relationship or possibly or just friends? How did that?
So mine did not. Mine said I was looking for friendship. Mine was relationship.
Okay. And then when you met, it just became organic.
Yes, it did. I again went into it trying to look for a friend. However, he piqued my interest to even go on a date, really, because I really wasn't looking for that.
Okay.
But when he did, just with his conversation, just over the text messages, it was nice. It was refreshing. It was different. So I was like, okay, we can do this, and we can see what this is about. And then 6 years later.
All right. So as far as, and then I'll move to the next couple, but as far as like, so you were looking for friendship, you were looking for a relationship. So with that said, when you first started to like really get with each other and stuff like that, was it you were trying to build a foundation, and that foundation being friendship, or was it just okay? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Only because that was my intention.
Okay.
I wanted our relationship to be based off of friendship, because I feel like you don't have friendship, how can you have relationship? Like you can't be with a person if you can't talk to them and open up to them, and that person be receptive of what you're saying and who you are. And his intentions weren't the same, and it wasn't you.
Well, yeah, I wanted a relationship, so of course I'm gonna get to know you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you want to be friends with the person you're with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so very much. Let's go ahead and go to the next couple. We'll do the ones in the middle, Adam and Christopher. So what was your first impression about your partner, and also tell us where you both met? I keep putting y'all on mute, so forgive me. Go ahead.
Hey, go ahead. Oh, okay. Well, believe it or not, we first interacted or met each other at Black Universe, and
which is a pageant.
Which is a pageant, and we never, just like people you meet or you may see in passing, you don't think too much of it. You just think of what you may think of them in that moment, and it's that, And we were also friends on social media, and we used to exchange sometimes messages, but there were never intentions behind any of our messaging that we had. And one time he messaged me letting me know he was coming to New Orleans for the first time for a conference, and he never been to the city, and he was looking for suggestions on places he could probably go to eat or a club or what have you. And just so happened I was off during the time that he was coming down here, so I told him if he ever needed a tour guide while he was in town, that I would, be available to show him.
Okay.
I offered my Southern hospitality on his own, and he accepted my offer. And when he came, just as in the messages, he came off as a gentleman. He was very gentleman-like. Okay. And with guys I've dated or hung out with, that was something that I've never experienced. And Christopher is a first of a lot of things for me. I might get emotional. I'm a sensitive person too, y'all, so I might get a little emotional when I talk. But he's the first of a lot of things for me. And a gentleman is definitely one of those things. I never had anyone treat me gentleman-like or just be soft or caring. He was all of those things. And I'm gonna let him talk for a second.
Yeah, because you're about to go in, but I love it. Go ahead.
So when I came down to New Orleans, I didn't know what to expect because, we, like you said, we had just exchanged a few messages via Facebook, and it was years between when we actually met at Universe to when I actually came down. And so I didn't know what to expect. And so when I came outside from the hotel, he came and picked me up. And of course, I would stay down in the quarter because that's what everybody does when they come to New Orleans. And so he took me on a grand tour. I think I was here for 4 days. And the only time when we weren't around each other during that 4 days is when I was in conference. And I'll just say I didn't go to a whole lot of the conference.
He played hooky from a few of those things on the itinerary.
But it just turned into, I think, a friendship first, and then it just kind of blossomed naturally from my point of view, into what it is today, us being partners together. You know, if anybody had asked me before I came to New Orleans first time, would I move to New Orleans, I would have probably said no. I think even when I messaged you about coming down, I said, I don't mind where we go. I just want to go anywhere they have snakes. Because that was my impression of New Orleans. And, you know, it just turned into a completely different situation than I ever imagined. You know, coming down and meeting him and hanging out, I didn't want to leave. And so 2 years later, I moved.
Yeah, I remember when you left from the first visit, before the plane took off from the leave, he messaged me, and I remember him saying he thoroughly enjoyed himself, and you know, he doesn't know where it will go from there, but he just definitely didn't want our relationship to end there, just there, you know. And in that moment, I knew he was going to be around for some time. Wasn't sure how long, but I knew, you know, this wasn't just a fly-by-night kind of thing.
Now, I don't mean to cut you off. Who jumped into whose inbox first on Facebook?
Raise your wine glass.
Oh, okay. Christopher, you did. Well, hey, I mean, so do you think that had you not hit him up or, you know, really started the conversation that you guys would be where you are today? Or you think that?
No. So just a little bit of history. So at the time, I was living in the middle of Kentucky, the middle of the Appalachian Mountains. Population 5,000. That's where I was living and working. And so I was probably one of 3 Black people in the surrounding 4 counties, and probably the only out gay person in the area. And so, you know, I was always traveling for work or traveling outside of that, but I had never come to New Orleans. Even with my pageantry traveling, it never brought me to New Orleans, and certainly not to have time to travel. I mean, to go out and see the city. And so I'm thankful to Cabernet, because I'm sure that's what I was drinking when I messaged him first.
My favorite.
Yeah, a little liquid courage. But no, I don't think so. But I'm very glad that I did, and I'm glad that we kept some form of communication throughout the years that led to me actually coming down for the first time.
And that was actually another first for me, him being my first, and that's a long distance relationship. He just knew where he lived. I literally had to catch the plane, where I would then get on a bus that took me to a camel, where I would ride out to where it was that bad. I am not lying.
Because he was in the middle of nowhere.
He was in the middle of.
Well, thank you guys. Yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful thing, because a lot of the times I know for me, I'm fearful of rejection. So any relationship that I've ever been in, I've never approached a person. And I've been in some, you know, a few, not a lot, but a few. And I would say, yeah, I mean, things probably would never happen with none of my, you know, exes had they not hit me up, you know. So I'm trying to get over that, you know, and you know, I'm like, what, a year and a half away from 40. So I want to be able to, you know, approach people. And if they reject me, you know, I'm okay with it. But yeah, so yeah, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to learn that from Christopher. So let me now bring Carmen and Nicole on. Can you hear me? Okay. Go ahead. So what your partner, and tell us where you both met.
My first impression of my partner, because we met at a club. We were out at a club, and I was with some friends, and I heard one of my friends say, oh, you think my sister's beautiful. So I guess she had said something to my friend. So then I looked across the room, and she was leaving. So I instantly made my way through the crowd to catch her. Like, she literally had 1 foot out the door. And I tapped her on the shoulder, and I was like, well, if you thought I was beautiful, why you didn't tell me so? And she was like, you know, I wasn't even talking to her, or whatever the case may be. So I could tell then I had my hand full, because she gave me a lot of attitude, and I was just kind of like, okay. But you know, that was 14 years ago, and we've been with each other every day since then. So yeah. I never would have thought that. I never would have, you know.
It's
Thought
funny.
that little young girl in the club would be my wife today.
And Carmen, what about you? What was your first impression of Nicole?
Well, as you see, she's very headstrong. And despite how my wife typically is seen, because she is more so in the limelight, where people sort of look at her like a, I don't know, I would say a socialite, if you will. Like she has this very strong personality on the outside, but truthfully, she's very humble and she's pretty meek for the most part. So from when I first met her, my first impression was like, oh Lord, like what I'm getting into. This lady done rolled up on me on my way out the door and like basically approached me like, so if you thought I was beautiful, then why didn't you say so? Same story, but it just goes just a little bit differently for me. We were in the crowd and it was me and my cousin and we were just hanging out. And I had saw Nicole on the show maybe about 3 or 4 more times. And the only reason why we would go to the club is to see her do the show. And my cousin was like, "They got your good little girlfriend." And we was laughing and kicking and all that, right? And basically, it was where I was like, man, she's so beautiful. And I was just like, when her show was over, I was ready to go. I was just like, that was the only reason why we came. So I'm leaving now. And that's what she says. Oh, well, my friend told me, that you thought I was beautiful, but you didn't say so. And so I'm like, oh God. Yeah, I already knew, like she said she had her handful of me. Nah, it was quite the opposite. It was quite the opposite. But I mean, I love every minute of it. I love what we share. Like we're best friends beyond anything else. So we learned a lot from each other within our relationship thus far.
Good. Thank you. And I think that it's important. I always said this because Dustin and Joe kind of touched on the whole friendship thing. Talking about that, I really do. I definitely. Well, the conversation I would always have with my friends is that I really believe that in relationship you have to be best friend. It's kind of like an extra best friend where it's kind of what's the word I can use? This I don't know, like it's just a little bit more. They're your best friends. You should be able to be who you are authentically at your core around this person. You should be able to share everything, meaning everything with this person. You should not be able to hide. And the extra thing is the intimacy part, because I'm sure no one's being intimate with, I don't know, but not you guys, but being intimate with your best friends. But I definitely feel like even when I was in a relationship, I always treated it as though I was, in a relationship with my best friend. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And I feel like a lot of the times when people are in relationships, not married, because I feel like a lot of people are married are like best friends. I'm getting a lot of feedback, so hold on. Are best friends, but I feel like that should be the common goal. Like we have to be best friends. We got to be able to do any and everything together. Also with maintaining our individuality, being able to hang with our friends. So something that I want to talk about is in relation to changing, because I feel like when we grow, as we get older and we grow and become mature and wiser, we also change. Most of us should be changing for the betterment and changing for the good, but sometimes we change for the bad. But I don't think that would be the case, because I think you guys are beautiful people. What about you? Or do you feel like you've changed since being with your partner? And if so, how? So again, do you feel as though you changed since being with your partner? And if so, how? And whoever would like to, raise their hand first and go, or we can just go to Dustin and Joe. Are y'all ready?
No, we got a hand raised right here. I want to hear it because she put her hand up real quick. So I want to hear it. But yes, we can come back to me. But yeah, I want to hear it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Carmen.
Okay. I can't hear Joe. I can't hear that. I can't hear them. But
okay. So hold on one second. So Dustin and Joe, can you guys hear Carmen and Nicole?
Yes. Yeah.
But you guys can't hear them. So do me a favor, Dustin and Joe.
Adam, can y'all hear us? Oops, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Adam, can y'all hear Dustin and Joe? Adam and Christopher, can you hear me? See, he did something to his phone. He did something. So, okay. So what I want you to do, Dustin, is, can you hear Dustin and Joe now?
Can you hear us now?
No. So I want you to go out for me, Dustin and Joe, and come back in. And Carmen and Nicole, you can go ahead and speak about the changes and have you changed.
Okay, so I think that when we first got together, I guess the proper term would be just more masculine. I was a lot more masculine when we first got together, and so that was a series of a change when realistically I've always had like more of a feminine flair, but my masculinity came from, me growing up hanging around boys and playing basketball, softball, et cetera, et cetera. And also during that time period when we got together, it was literally like the lean with it, rock with it time period. So like all the clothes was oversized. It was just a different era. You know what I'm saying? Like a totally different era. Like, so it changed my perspective on how I want to look in my clothes, and from there, I want to say that like literally we've had like multitude of talks about like being completely honest, being forefront. If you feel some kind of way, don't ever hold it. Don't say that it's not a big deal, or try to push it to the back, like what your thoughts and feelings are not important. But I learned that like being myself authentically is the only way that I'm allowed to love myself first and foremost, and then have a space for her to love me. So it was like, learning who I was as we got together, because I was 18 when we got together. Babe was 23. So she's 5 years my senior. And it was just a little bit different for us in the beginning because we were trying to learn each other's love languages. We're both Leos, which is, when people hear that, they always be like, oh God, y'all are both Leos. That's crazy. But it works for us. We're both fire signs. And so it's just like, I would say I changed over the, few years that we've been together, because I started out one way or appearing to be one way. And then as I started to learn to love myself more and know myself more, which came through her, because I was so like I kept a facade up trying to, I guess, appeal to my generation.
Okay.
And she helped me uncover that. And I'm grateful.
That's beautiful.
I don't have to be somebody just because that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
She allows me to be myself, and it's not an allowance. It's just that she accepts me to be myself, and that's very hard for, people in this era. I see pictures and videos, and I see how conversations I had in just group settings, and like people are not allowed to be themselves, and that's to me the worst part of your life, to be able to have to lie to the people that you say you love the most, and can't be yourself. So, I thank her for that all the time. But it's just like, to people who are listening, if you're not yourself authentically, how can you dare think that someone's supposed to know you?
Yeah.
Then that someone's supposed to understand you if you're not being completely honest with yourself first and foremost. So the things I like, the way I like to dress, she encourages me. If I want to fem it up tomorrow, but she is right down with the shit, we can hang out and just be homegirls. We could just be Judy's at a club and hang out, and it's no questions asked. It's like whatever I want to be, however I want to be. There's no label with us. Like we learned that a long time ago. There's no labels. I can't believe I'm crying on this show. This is crazy. I got onions in my eyes.
Nicole.
Okay. So I'm gonna keep it together because I don't want us falling apart.
Girl, you got to.
But I would say, although I was 5 years her senior, I was very immature. I was underexposed. I was very feisty. I would say I've changed, but I've changed for the better. She introduced me to, I always knew and had, like, God was always first, and I knew things didn't happen without him. But she came from a background of churching all day, churching all night. I didn't know that life. Mm-hmm. I still don't know it, but I know she helped me get a better relationship with God. She taught me some patience. She totally helped me evolve as a mother. I want to speak on that because Mother's Day just passed on Sunday, and I always put my daughter first, and I always did whatever I needed to do for her. But my upbringing was a little bit different. So where I thought yelling and punishment, whoopings, I thought that was okay because that's all I knew. But she told me, hey, no, you have to communicate. You have to talk. So she's helped me open up and be a better communicator, be true to myself, be a better mother to my child, be able to be a good wife to her, and just authentically finding out who I am and what makes me happy. Because for a long time, I didn't know who I was. I want to speak on the adventurous side. So yeah, this is all the things that have changed with me. So if I'm a little bit long-winded, it's because these are the things that have changed with me. I had never been on an airplane before I was 33 years old. I had never been outside of Atlanta before I was 32 years old, because I took a cruise the year before.
We went out of Atlanta, but you made me drive everywhere.
Yeah, we drove everywhere. We went on trips, but we drove everywhere. We couldn't get there, but we done touched every part of Florida, because that was the only vacation place we were gonna go, because it was close in Myrtle Beach. So I've changed, I've opened up, and I'm willing to try new things, go different places, live life. I just recently obtained a passport, but right before the pandemic started. Okay. So I'm just looking forward to what will come next. But yeah, she's definitely helped me grow and be a better person.
I love hearing that, because especially, I mean, from the both of you, but what stuck out to me was kind of what Carmen started out with was, I was this type of person and I was living this way and I was trying to please everybody, or you're in these relationships and you think you have to be this type of person for the type of, and so I'm not going to get all in my business unless y'all ask me, but I was like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very versatile in just who I am. What you may think may not be, and so I can say for me, the last relationship that I was in, it was the one where I felt like I could be authentically who I was. Like, I would tell people all the time, y'all would be amazed how we're sitting up in this house and we're acting a damn fool.
All the time.
You know what I'm saying?
All the time.
And that's important. So like, I don't want just a boyfriend or a husband or a man. I want a friend, and I want just to be able to be, even like when we're in, some people when they're in relationships, they'll get around their friends and they want to act a certain way. And no, we have to be who we are at 100%. Every now and again, I'm not gonna lie, I would say, girl, you know what I'm saying? But it's just a casual, conversation or whatever, not calling you out or whatever. But no, that really spoke to me, and I really appreciate that. And your story, as we're getting along, I mean, it's just beautiful, and I just hope that people who are watching really understand that you have to be in it with someone who wants to be with you, who you are, so it's important, very important. Okay, Dustin and Joe, let's hear it.
So can you ask the question one more time?
Yeah, let me bring it up here. So do you feel you've changed since being with your partner, and if so, how?
I'll let you start first.
Okay.
Y'all hear him?
Can y'all hear us?
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, good. Out of both of us, I think he's changed the most. I know that I've always been a very sensitive person. So as far as my own growth, there's things that I've learned about him that I perceive a certain way previously and interpreted it as something that I would take offense to, and have now been able to let certain things go. I don't believe in holding on to things. So I think if there's something that bothers you, you should bring it up. But then I've learned that there's some things that it just doesn't really matter. So that's probably where I grew the most.
Okay. Yes, I will say that I have grown the most in this relationship. I came from 2 previous relationships where I felt like I was altered in a very negative way from my own understanding of who I was as a person, because I was with these other people and the lifestyle that I was leading with them just didn't match up with who I was. So getting with Dustin, he is a person that wants to communicate and doesn't want to harbor on feelings and wants to talk it out. I didn't come from that. I was, okay, let's bury it and move on, because I want to be with you. I know I want to be with you. So let's just squash it and move on. With my husband, that's a totally different thing. We need to talk about this. We need to evaluate, see what's going on. Where are you coming from? Because I want to help you understand where I'm coming from. So then your feelings are validated. My feelings are validated. We can come back together. That is very nice to have. I will say it is very nice to have, because harboring those feelings of I can't say what I want to say because I feel like it may change us in a negative way or in a way that I'm not aware of, I'm not sure, was very hard. But he makes it a little easy. I will say a little easy only because I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm a human. I still have faults, and I'll still like thinking it could be a little thing and I'll hold it in, but then he'll notice it. And when I do say whatever it is that was on my chest, it is so freeing. It is just such, like people say, a weight off of your chest or your back. And that feels good and it feels awesome. So, and I know that that comes from him. And it feels awesome to have grown into that light of being able to just say what I want to say and not feel like I'm going to be chastised for what I'm saying, or two, that I'm going to be judged for what I'm saying negatively. It's always constructive. It's let's rebuild this. Let's go from here and let's get stronger.
So Joe, let me ask you. So when you would have these issues come up and, you know, whatever the problem is or issue, and you're sitting there silent, you're not saying it, or you're holding it in, how long would you hold these things in? Like, would it be a day? Would it be a week?
My husband wouldn't let it be a day, no.
It used to be forever. He would never say it until we have.
Yeah, that was when we first started dating, but you have to realize that I was still trying to get to know him for who he was, and to know that I could be this open person and I could communicate in that way. So in the beginning, yes, it took me maybe a day, 2 days,
6 months.
Yeah.
So he would hold on to his feelings. He just wasn't a very great communicator. He grew up being very strong, taking care of his mom and his sisters, that he didn't have the opportunity to lean on someone and share his emotions. He had to be the strong one. And I found that we've probably had a real argument maybe 2-3 times in the relationship, but of course we've had discussions here and there. But through those discussions, it comes out that he didn't like the way I said something 6 months ago. And I can't remember what I said, but it was always.
Oh, but I remember verbatim.
It was a lot of times just misinterpreted.
Yeah.
So he's gotten a lot better about communicating and understanding that if I tell him, hey, the way you said that hurt my feelings, it's not me slapping his hand and saying, don't do that again. It's, I want you to be aware that maybe you were tired and you rolled your eyes, or the tone of your voice kind of took me back. And I want you to acknowledge that and maybe have a chance to tell me how you're feeling. Are you upset about something? Did I do something? Or are you just tired? And then we can move on. So he's gotten a lot better.
It's all about being receptive to that.
Yeah.
Being receptive of what the person is saying. Because in the beginning, I would hear what he was saying, but it didn't necessarily resonate with me because I was still stuck in my own ways. I was stuck in how I thought. But as we progressed, I saw that we are a couple. Like, this is legit. Like, this is going in the right light. Let me continue to foster this almost child that we're bringing into the world of this relationship. Let me open up and let me see where that will take me, and be receptive of what he's saying and not just throwing it to the wayside and moving on, because that's not going to get you anywhere. Those feelings are still going to be there. They're going to fester. They're going to build. And then it's going to take the right time for it to explode. And then at that point, you're coming off to this person that's trying to be genuine to you, to understand who you are and what you feel, and also how I feel and what I think. So it's just, it's a weight. It's a balance.
Some things that I'm taking from your response is, another thing is like just knowing who you are, knowing where you are in the place that you're at, when you're dating someone and when you're getting to know them, and be upfront and honest. Because a lot of times I always used to have this conversation on shows like this, and I'm like, expectation conversation. And that was the thing where I felt like, you know, when we're sitting down and we're getting to know each other and it's getting in the thick of things and we're getting to know, you know, we're like really like, we know this is about to be official. We need to be open and honest about who we are, and also open and honest about what we expect of this relationship. Right. Where do we see things going? And both of us answering the same question. Because I think a lot of times people are just waiting for those hills and those valleys and those mountains and that stuff to happen. If you just have that communication, being open and honest about this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is, you know, this is what happens when, you know, if you were to say this or you were to do that, or this is what I don't like. And so I kind of have a, you know, an idea. Well, if I do this, if I say that, I know this is going to piss them off. Right.
Exactly.
You know? So it's good to know who you are coming into this thing, because the same person that you know, you are coming into it while you're in it, and eventually as the years go by, you're not going to be that same person, or you shouldn't be the same person. Right. Another thing is that you will be something that I'm learning is that, and something that my brother and I, who's a pastor in Atlanta, we talk about is that we've realized that the relationships and the friendships that we had or we have with our family and how we were raised really kind of seep into our relationships with people. You know, like, oh, we didn't really talk about feelings, you know, growing up, whatever. And we rarely even said, I love you, you know, then. Now I'm on the phone with my mom or my brother, I love you, I love you, I love you. But that's something that we didn't do. And so that was something for me that I learned over time. But it's just funny how former relationships and friendships and even family relationships, how those kind of like come into your own relationship. So I'm learning a lot here, guys. So I really appreciate you guys. Okay, so let's go to Adam and Christopher. You guys aren't muted. So do you feel as though you changed being with your partner, and if so, how?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'd say Christopher's changed me. He's overall he's humbled my spirit, I would have to say, and which is one of the reasons why I knew he had to be my husband, because I come from a line of like tumultuous relationships that were very bad, and in going forward from them, it made me more of an aggressive person sometimes in relationships, or quick to react in a aggressive manner, you know, out of things that I've been through. But Christopher has humbled me, and he took me back to where I began and showed me that love is kind, and you know, you don't have to fight the one you love, and you don't have to, you know, react in certain kind of ways, you know, to get along and communicate, you know. And in doing so, he's made me vulnerable. I'm used to being the captain of my ship, and in relationships, I'm used to being the overseer, the one that does everything. And he's actually another first to come along and make me put every guard down, and I trust him wholeheartedly with my life, and in knowing that he will make the right decisions for me and in the best decision of our family, you know. And that's how he changed. Yes, he changed.
Good change.
I said you were gonna make me cry. So I would say that Adam has changed me in my past relationships, or if anybody knows me, really knows me, Christopher, and not Rayshawn, that I'm a very driven person. You know, driven in how I want to live my life now, and how I want to live my life in retirement. And in my past relationships, I was dating people and with people that felt that I was doing too much, doing too much career-wise, spending too much time focusing on my work, or spending too much time on school and obtaining degrees. And so when I got with Adam, he kind of accentuated my crazy. And instead of saying, oh, you shouldn't do that, it was, yes, let's do that. Or how can we do this in a different way to make it even better than what you had envisioned? And it goes far beyond just, you know, our day-to-day lives or anything we want to do. I mean, it's the pageant. It's anything that any dream that I have, he accentuates that for me. And that's a first for me. I never had anybody, and that's when I knew that he was going to be my husband. In my mind, anyway. I know he was going to say yeah or nay or kick the rocks. But in my mind, I knew that he was the one for me, because he he saw me for who I really was and who I really am. And he pushes me to be better every day. And I never had anybody do that for me. I always had people saying, step back, or don't do this, or don't do so much, for whatever reason. And without saying, yes, let's do this, or yes, let's do it in this way. And I'll give you an example. This last 9 months has been a huge change for me. I changed jobs. I changed cities and states. We bought a house, and he was there every step of the way, adding and saying, let's do this way, let's do this that way. You know, when we first talked about moving down here together, he helped me look for a job here. And then when I just came up with the idea, well, let's get a house instead of getting an apartment, he was right there looking at houses. He drove past this house a good 20 times in the middle of the night before we got the house. And so, you know, it's just one of those things that, you know, you need somebody who's going to take you by the hand and say, let's go. And I never had that before you. And thank you.
Oh, loving it. So, because I'm not gonna cry. Can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me, right? Just thumbs up. Okay, great. Because I know some of you are on mute. I'm gonna unmute you, but Adam said something that I think you all may have kind of touched on here and there, but I want to ask you this question. What did you learn about yourself through your failed relationships that helped prepare you for the successful relationship that you're in now? You can just give me one thing, and I'm gonna leave it on the screen to Adam and Chris, you know, since we had waited the longest. So what did you learn about yourself through your failed relationships that helped prepare you for this successful relationship that you're in now?
Okay, so what I would say I've learned is that I have to stay true to myself. In any relationship, partnership, whatever you have to stay true to yourself, or it's not going to be successful. You have to continue to be you. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't make concessions. That doesn't mean that you don't care about the other person, but you have to keep a sense of yourself. You cannot lose yourself in that. But one of the biggest things I've learned, I guess, throughout the other relationships that's helped me in this relationship is that communication is key, and how you communicate is very important. I'm a Cancer, and so typically, you know, I will hold on to things for eons, and then if we get into an argument, I'm bringing everything out, and so you can't do that in a relationship, because you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to have a disagreement. And so that's something that I picked up along the way. And I think that it has helped me to be able to be in a relationship where we're sharing everything and every bit of ourselves and not holding anything back, and being able to communicate effectively so that it doesn't boil to that point where it's no longer communication. You're just both yelling and not getting anything done. So that's what I would say that I picked up through the years. So
you were a Joe. You were just like Joe, holding stuff in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Only a while, because when the door opened,
all of it comes out.
All of it comes out.
Yeah, and we realize now that, you know, as we all get older, that's just not the way, because you don't know how, you know, like Joe was saying, you know, he'll let all this stuff out. You don't know how that person, your partner, is going to be receptive to that. They may really like just say, you know what, I'm done. Especially if you continue to do that over and over, and it's been brought up to you. You know, like, you got to stop doing this. Let me know. You know, and then also saying, like, I don't have this. I hope you're not listening or watching, but we can't be on the defense. We are a team. We're together. You know, I can't sit here and, you know, we're supposed to be against the world, you know, or you know, like, we're protecting ourselves. So if I have to come to you or ask you a question or whatever, I shouldn't have to always feel like I have to be on the defense, because if I have to always feel like I'm on the defense with you, then I am going to resort to holding things in, because I don't want to have an argument. I don't want to have a fight. But eventually those things will come to surface. We know that.
I think this is the thing that people miss. Arguments without the yelling. So a common argument is healthy, because it lets both people see where they're coming from in that situation, to stop it from happening again, or to change things so that it mitigates how it happens. And so if you don't do that, like the Cancer and me used to hold everything, and if you don't express your feelings, it's going to happen again, because you never said that there was a problem in the first place. And so I think that's one of the things that I picked up that allowed me to be successful in this relationship.
And kind of piggyback off that, but I've learned that there's power in the tongue throughout my years of dating, and I used to say a lot of stuff that I didn't mean to people I date, and you have to be careful what you speak out to your partner, because no matter how big, little, or big it may seem to you, they're taking it in, and pretty soon they'll believe what you're saying, and they'll react off of that. I used to tell one of my partners, I don't care if you fuck. Go, I don't know if I'm sorry for saying that. Go do what you want. Do what you want. But I don't care. I don't care. Do you? But deep down inside, that would tear me apart. What she did to him. Because and in hindsight, it's like, well, can you really blame him? You used to always tell him you wouldn't care. Do you? I don't. So you have to be mindful of what you speak to your partner, what you say to them, and then especially in times when you're mad and stuff. So that's why sometimes if Christopher and I don't really agree on something, I may not say anything in that moment, and I'll give it time, because I know I got a quick tongue. I know it can say some powerful things, and I would never want any of that energy to go into his mind, because he just told you he a Cancer, and they're sensitive, and they take things too far, and they go a whole another direction, because I couldn't control my tongue. But you have to learn to control your tongue, even if you want to say it so bad in the moment, you cannot do it. Like,
yeah, it's not worth it.
Because we all need to calm down. Yo, put it on mute. Is that what you said? Put it on mute. Okay. Carmen and Nicole, or Dustin and Joe, whoever want to, jump up. Give me 1 second. Let me put that banner back up there so everybody know what's going on. Okay, go ahead and talk, Dustin and Joe. I'm sorry.
So I want to say, don't settle. Do not settle for someone just to have them there. Settle for someone that is willing to stay. Because a lot of us will get into I want someone to be there with me. I want to have someone to cuddle at night, or I want to have someone to talk to. Before I met him, learned how to be by myself. I, for a while, did not know how to be by myself, because I went from one relationship, maybe a year between that. Then I went into another relationship, and it was a long period of time. But in that time of being by myself, I learned what I wanted in a person, what I wanted to not have. And when you know what you don't want to have and what you do want, they're two separate things. But when you see it, you realize, okay, that's what I need to head after. I don't need to be with just someone to be there. I want to be with someone that's going to stay. And that's where just don't compromise. Whether you're single for a year, 6 months, 5 years, 10 years, well, hopefully not 10 years. But if you're there for a while, just hold on and know who you want, know how to see it. And then when you do, just go after it.
Yeah, and I would say what I learned from previous relationships, like I think most people, they kind of evaluate what they feel went wrong, what they didn't like. And from a past relationship, I would just try to analyze what I felt was the worst part of that relationship as far as how it made me feel. And those were things that I would not compromise on. I do think being in a relationship, you're constantly compromising, but I think there's certain standards that you don't go below. And that's certainly what I learned and took into the relationship, which he never got close to any of them, which is one of the reasons that I knew right away that he was the one that I wanted to marry forever.
Good. Thank you. And you brought up compromise, and I'll touch on that, very soon. Both of you kind of touched on it, so we might not get any other feedback from you guys. I'm just kidding, because I'm sure there's some type of tips or advice that you guys will be able to give in regards to compromising. Because I believe that compromising is something that, well, I know for men, men become very stubborn, you know, and in their ways and stuck in their ways, and they don't want to compromise. It's always it's got to be me, it's got to be me or my way. So I think that, you know, that's going to be a great conversation to have as well. As like, how do you just compromise? So I'm glad you brought it.
Right.
Carmen and Nicole, go right ahead.
I honestly, when we got together, I was 18, like I said. So with my prior relationships, I was more so just playing the field. So really taking anybody serious wasn't anything that I was considering. As far as what I would have brought from the relationship, I would have to say the same thing. It would be something about compromising and possibly, like the other gentleman said, you know, keeping your tongue to a minimum, you know, understanding how much power your tongue really has. Because really, when you say things and you throw things up or you're trying to maliciously hurt somebody, it's not about what they did to you first. It's about how you counteract. And when you react a certain kind of way, it could literally ruin your relationship from beginning to end. No matter how good it really was, it will ruin it if you don't know how to mend it. So I would still say the power of tongue still. Yeah.
Okay. Nicole, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Sorry. Okay. I would say from past relationships, again, I was young. I never really had a relationship where I actually taken it serious. But if I had to zoom in on something, I would definitely say letting my guard down. I had to let my guard down in order to be loved. I would say that learning how to be vulnerable, because I've always felt like I had to be the strong one. It was hard to say, you hurt me. I don't like when you say this. I don't like when you do that. So I would just say letting my guard down and just being vulnerable and allowing someone to love me. That was my biggest challenge growing up. So, yeah.
So when we talk about compromise, compromise is commonly understood as giving up something in order to reach a place of understanding with your partner. What does compromise or compromising in a relationship mean to you? And give us an example where you actually had to compromise on something. And probably didn't want to, but you had to.
Okay.
I would probably say, like when I first got started with my designing company, I would say that my wife was very upset because for a while we had to go without a dining room table because I needed the table to work on. And so I would say that I know you asked about what did I compromise on, but I would say that it was a compromise mainly for her because we had a nice dining room table and I took that and made that a work table. And then that whole area was where I worked. And so that was like a huge compromise on her end that I appreciate personally.
Nicole, anything?
Let's see. If I could think of something that a time I had to compromise, I would say, as petty as it may sound, I'm a grandmother's girl, so I like my bed high.
Okay.
My wife complains to this day. We just got a new bed because she complains that she needs a step stool.
I'm sure
to get in the bed. But now we have this bed and I am like miserable. I'm like, can we please send it back? It's too low. So it's just like, that is something that I'm willing to compromise because I don't want to keep hearing her, complaining, saying, I have to do the step stool. And I definitely, short people sometimes have short people complex. So I don't really want to cater to that. But no, that's about it. Yeah. That's what I'll say. So
I agree.
Thank you.
I just sleep in the little bed. As long as I'm with her, it don't matter.
Now, Adam and Christopher.
Well, I already told y'all how he taught me how to compromise. He taught me there's more than one commander in chief, and so.
Can you recall something? Maybe in the last. I'll say, like, since you've been married 6 months, is there anything that you had to compromise on, or even getting ready for the wedding or ceremony? Was there anything that you just had to compromise on that you really just didn't at first want to go with, or?
Well, I would say that was more of a compromise for me, the wedding, because we both talked about having a small, intimate wedding, but the definition of small, intimate was different. And we went and looked at some wedding venues, and looked at, guest lists and all this kind of stuff. And then, Adam wanted to be small and intimate. His idea of small and intimate was about 10 people. My idea of that was about 7. And so, one of the things that I compromised about in talking to Adam and really realizing that in that moment, it's about us, and it's not about the pomp and circumstance and everything that goes along with it. It's not about anybody else that's there. It's about the two of us entering into that union and sharing our love and putting it on paper. And so that's why we decided to go to the courthouse. And so for me, that was a compromise, from going down from 75 people to 5 people there, and going down to the courthouse and doing it privately. Both of us are pretty private people when it comes to our relationship. We discussed this for about an hour before. But I think that was I can say so far in our marriage that was a compromise that happily I was able to come around on.
I honestly, Christopher don't really put me in too many compromising positions, and I'm glad to say that.
Glad to know.
Yeah. I honestly can't think of any, Mike, and nobody's perfect, and I'm not saying that by far, but if I was to try to make, I would honestly be lying to you. I don't feel like you really put me in any compromising positions. And that's why it goes back to why I trust this man completely and wholeheartedly. Decision making.
I'll say unless it has to do with design.
Everything is, he knows when to just bow, take a bow. A gentleman always knows when to take a bow.
Right.
The gentleman. So
Micah, during this quarantine, we decided we were going to do all these home projects.
Okay.
And so we started in the backyard, and we had the fence was already there, but it looked like it probably never ever been cleaned or stained or anything. So we went to Home Depot. We had been in there so many times. The lady said, "Y'all in here every day." The cashier said that to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we picked out the stain. He let me pick the stain color, and he let me put it on one part of the fence. And then he said, "How do you like that?"
You gotta
knowing I didn't like it after I bought 3 gallons of stain. And so then we went back to the store and bought the color that he wanted. So, I don't, you don't compromise. You just let me,
let you do what you do.
Do what I do.
See for yourself
and see that it's a fool.
There you go.
And it comes with time, especially you're 3 years, and 6 months, it's still new, but I think if people, not just you guys, I'm not speaking directly to you, if we just kind of let our guards down and understand that we're not going to be the same, we're not going to like the same things, but it's good to take that adventure. For me, where I had to compromise, and I'll get that is I live in Jersey, I work in New York, and New York is a lot freer. So you can walk around with your lover and all that, holding hands. Nobody's gonna say anything to you. And I'm sitting here, I'm from the South, so I'm sitting there like, oh, I don't know if I want to hold hands with him. I love him, this, that, and the other. And but I will say, even though I compromised on that, and I felt good because I felt like if everybody else can love who they love, why can't I love and show affection to who I'm with? And so I had to compromise on that initially, but now it's kind of like whoever comes to my life next. I mean, I'm not gonna say we gotta hold hands every day, or while I walk in the city, but that's something that I would say I learned from that relationship, and I was able to compromise on. But yeah, I think it's important for all of us to be able to compromise with our partners, especially if we're living with them. I think it's harder. What do you guys think? Do you think it's harder having to compromise with someone who you live with? I'm gonna unmute you all, Carmen and Nicole and Dustin and Joe. Is it harder? It is.
It is.
I agree.
It is because every day is a constant.
Oh, did it go out?
Different.
Oh, did it go? Go ahead. I can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying every day is a constant compromise because we're different. It even goes down to different meals, She like things a certain way. I don't care, but then I know that it upsets her, so I try to conform and fix these things because of course I don't want to make her upset. But yeah, it's a constant compromise. It's yes. And
It's
people,
an
although
ongoing
we've
thing.
been
It's not
together as
a,
long as we have, we're still learning each other. So I want people to never get comfortable with your mate. Always be, because they change. We all are changing daily.
Yeah.
So what she liked yesterday, she may not like today. And same with me. What I liked yesterday, I may not like it today. So it's never okay to get comfortable with your mate. The same way you got them is definitely the same way you need to work hard to keep them.
Or harder.
And it gets harder because you run out of creative ways to express your love because you get comfortable. Sometimes you may forget to say I love you. You may forget those small things, but those small things are really what counts. Like, I know that even though I wake up first thing in the morning, I know she looks forward to that kiss from me. Even though once I kiss her, she kissing back like she kissing like 5 seconds delayed, but she know I done it. So she know I done it. I be like,
I'm in your boat, girl. I'm in your boat, girl.
You're in my boat, right?
I'm in your boat, girl. It's a quick one. I'm not a morning person.
I'm like, girl, I done got up and left.
Dustin and Joe, do you have an example where you had to really compromise in the relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like where I learned compromise is that someone else has an opinion. When I first got with him, like I said, I was just headstrong on being by myself. I'm a very independent person, not at least with the past 6 years, but I'm a very independent person. Like that's what my mother taught me. She was a single mother, 3 kids. She had to do everything on her own. So I grew up with that mentality that I need to do for myself. I need to do certain things and just be independent. But then when meeting him, I had to understand that there's another opinion in this.
Yeah.
Like I have to understand that you have a say-so in this as well. And I had to understand that I have to be receptive to that opinion. And somehow, and I don't care to say this, but 90% of the time, he is right. And I bite my tongue sometimes, but that just comes with being in a relationship. Like they said, you gotta kind of know when to bite your tongue. And I've learned that because he has an opinion, and I want him to have an opinion because his opinion is valid. He thinks a different way than I think, and I think a different way than he does. And sometimes my way may work better than his, and his way may work better than mine. So just mine would be just the understanding that there's another opinion that's out there, and that opinion may actually be better than what you thought of or what you were willing to understand.
Yeah.
And I would say one thing that I had to learn was whenever my feelings get hurt, I will want to talk about it immediately, because if not, then I'm going to go hours upset and I'm not going to be able to concentrate, and I could be working. And he likes to take time to diffuse and think about a situation. And I was always headstrong, thinking, well, I need to resolve this because I can't continue my day. And it took some time for me to think that, okay, that's how I handle it. That's not how he handles it. So we had to kind of compromise and come to an agreement that either this is something that he can bend and we can quickly squash it, or it's something that we can come back to, but we're not letting go, until 8, 9 o'clock at night. We can come back to this and, at lunch break or something like that. So,
because like the saying says, don't go to sleep mad.
Yeah.
Don't go to sleep.
Yeah, don't go to sleep. That's a good one. I was thinking.
Not go to sleep mad.
Yep.
Because you're going to wake up to that same problem. That problem's going to go into your next day, and your next day going to be affected by it. And I've had to learn that as well. Just go ahead, talk about it. Because like he said, I will take my time. I'm a Cancer as well. And my thing is I'm a very observant person. And so when we're having this discussion, or we're having this
discussion,
pretty much discussion, I need to have thought out things. I need to know, okay, well, if you're thinking this way, then I may be thinking this way, but it may take us down to this road. And if it takes us to that road, then we need to get to the point A, B, all over the place. And this is where he will bring me back to life and bring me back to center. And
he will be arguing 4 steps ahead because he's predicting what I'm about to say. And I'm not there yet. And that has been
in my life, I've had to fight.
We've taken time to actually figure out that was the problem.
Yeah.
It took a couple of discussions, 2 hours long. We're like, okay, now I realize that you're a couple steps ahead and we need to just ring it.
I done got to a year from now where this discussion done took us and I got to reel that back in and understand that, okay, well, we need to talk about this now, because if we don't talk about it now, then tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow is going to be affected. The next day is going to be affected. Our year will be affected by how I respond in this moment. So if I don't take a second, listen, be observant though, because you still have to be observant, but also respond respectfully, because if you don't respond respectfully, excuse me, this beer getting to me, then your next day is going to be affected. And do you really want to affect your next day by being mad at the person that you want to be for the rest of your life? No, you don't want that. Let's go ahead and talk about this right now. As much as I may not want to do it, let's do it now. So 1, we don't go to bed mad at each other, but 2, our day is not affected.
Amen. I agree.
So go ahead.
You should respond.
Is that Christopher?
Yeah. So you should respond in a discussion. We'll use that word instead of argument. We respond in a discussion based on where you want the conversation to go. If you want to arguing, then that's how you respond. If you want to dispute the argument, then that's how you respond. And that's in your tone, that's in what you say, it's in all those things. And that's not just in relationships, in life in general, but you especially in a relationship, you have to respond with your ultimate goal. Is my goal to argue with you? It shouldn't be. My goal is to express how I'm feeling. And so I'm going to take a deep breath in the camera, put the claws away, and speak calmly, and express how I'm feeling versus, yelling and saying things I probably really would not want to have said the next day.
Right.
I like that. I like that.
Some things that I wrote down when we talk about communication, and we'll go to love. We won't hold you all too much longer, but I definitely want to speak about love briefly, and a little exercise, and then I also want to talk about marriage really quickly. But communication. When you guys brought up communication, I jotted down in my little book here, and I said communication. You want to ask open-ended questions always. When you're communicating with each other, you just want to ask those open-ended questions. You don't want to ask a question that just says no, yeah, like we're not going to get anywhere with that. You have to ask those open-ended questions. Another thing that, and I also base these off the experiences that I've had as well, and then also listen to you all, is setting aside time to actually talk. Because we get so busy in our lives and we're doing this and doing that and it becomes a routine. But when we know that there's something that's bothering us, and sometimes it may not just be the right time to bring it up in that moment. I may not be able to say it at 7:00, but I may say, babe, let's, at about 9:00 when I get settled down, when I've kind of decompressed from work, let's just have a conversation. So I think setting aside time to actually talk is good. And then also don't try to read their minds. I think a lot of times just us as people, we always trying to read, other people's mind and what they think or what they perceive, but you don't know unless you ask. So I think it's very important that you do ask them. Don't say, oh, he's probably mad. Oh, just ask. Don't try to read their mind.
Take it from me. I'm the one that I think a year in advance. Like I'm thinking all the way to a year from now. Take it from me. Don't expect that what you think he's saying or she is saying is what she's really saying, because you don't know that. You don't know it. That's a totally different person, got a totally different mind, has a totally different upbringing. Yeah. Don't expect that what you're thinking, because my mind goes a totally different way sometimes than where his mind goes. And if you don't ask him that question or ask her that question, how will you ever know their side of how they're thinking?
Correct. You are so right. You are so right.
Preach, preacher. Okay, so let's talk about love. Tell us, and when I say us, I mean the people watching, and your co-panel. Tell us about the moment when you knew that you were finally in love with this person, because you don't love them off that. So tell us about that moment when you knew you were finally in love with your partner. Just raise your hand. Whoever wants to go first.
So I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
And I don't even think you know this.
I might not.
So there was a night that we went out, and we had been dating for a while, but we went out with my friends, and it was in Orlando, and I was ready to have fun with my friends because I hadn't for a while, because when we started dating, I kind of started pulling back from hanging out with my friends as much as I did because I wanted to get to know him. I wanted to spend a lot of my time with him. But we went to Orlando. We were at a friend's, I think it was a birthday party, and I was having fun. I mean, we were having a lot of fun. And he pulls me aside and is like, babe, we got to go. And I'm like, I don't really want to go. And he's like, no, I think we should go because we have plans tomorrow. I told you we have plans tomorrow. And I was like, okay. And the reason where I fell in love was because he was very responsible in, one, letting me have my time with my friends, having fun with my friends, and enjoying myself, which I love that he loved about me, that I like to enjoy myself. But two, that he was respectful of our time, where I hadn't had that in my past. And so lo and behold, that this night of why he told me we needed to leave that night. And I kind of was a little perturbed about leaving because I was having such a good time. I left very salty, but I was like, babe, I love you. Let's go. We have this thing to do tomorrow. Let's go ahead. We're going to do it. We'll wake up in the morning. I'll be good. Let's go do it. So next morning is when he decided that he would pull a prank on me and tell me that we, at the time, we were working at a particular company together, and we had an event for the next day to go and see a screening of a movie. And I was like, okay, well, why is that so important? But okay, let's do it. So we wake up the next morning and we get dressed, and I'm like, okay, well, what should I wear? He's like, okay, maybe you should wear this. And I'm like, I don't know if I should wear this. It was a button up. And I was like, I don't know if I want to wear this to a company outing. I was like, I want to be more comfortable. I'm not trying to be stuffy. So I put it on, and we proceed to go to the Tampa Theater. And lo and behold, this is where he rented out the Tampa Theater to propose to me at. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It was
the first time you fell in love with me.
Okay.
No, yes. I'm gonna back myself up on this because I may have loved him prior to this moment. You can love a person and know that you love them.
Yeah.
But there's a reassuring moment that says, okay, this is that person. So that moment when I knew something was up, but I didn't know what it was, but I knew that this person that was being responsible, because in my life before him, I wasn't necessarily the most responsible. I was responsible. I was independent, but not as much as him. And he just kind of took that authority. So it kind of just was like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air. This is like someone that I could see myself with this person. Then all of a sudden, I'm getting engaged to you the next day. Yes, that was when I absolutely knew, yes, when I'm saying yes and you put this ring on my finger, yes, I love you. So, yeah.
Well, all right. I love that, though. That was deep.
As far as when I knew on the first date that this was the man that I was going to propose to and get married to, based on our interactions and our conversation. But I would say at the time when we were dating, his car wasn't working, so he was taking Ubers or taking the bus. And one day after I got home from work and drove over to his house to hang out for the night, I'd found out that he'd walked like 2 or 3 miles to Publix by himself to get food to cook for us. brought it back home and did all the cooking. And through my relationships, I've typically been the one that cared the most, and that showed a lot of effort. And I'm always big on actions speak louder than words. He took a lot of an initiative to show me how much he cared for me. That's probably when I would say that I fell in love with him.
That was good too.
Come on, Christopher and Adam.
I would say I knew that Christopher was the one for me. Well, one, because, like I say, everything's not perfect. Throughout the term of a relationship, at one point, we came to a slight hiatus, and it was brief. It didn't last that long, but in that time, every day I thought about Christopher. Wake up, go to work. Nothing would take my mind from him. Every song I listened to, I would even listen to songs thinking about him, and I had no urge to move forward. And I'm a Capricorn, and we are very stubborn in our ways. And like he said, he's Cancer, and you know how they are. You know, we ain't got to go into that again. But in the midst of all that going on, Christopher gave me what I think of in my head as this little fairy tale, I'm going to get my man moment. You know, here I am at work, and I look up, and it was like a month. And Christopher like I told you, I can have a slight, you never know how my attitude might flow, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart, he took a chance. He didn't know what to expect, what he was coming to, what he was gonna get. I hadn't said nothing to him. He ain't said nothing to me. We were stuck in our ways and how we were feeling. And despite all that, he was able to put all of that aside and get on a plane to come to me.
Yeah.
But I feel, you know, and that meant so much to me. And in that moment when I looked up and saw him, and I was at work, I you know, it in that moment when I saw him standing there, I knew that, you know, that no man has ever gone to that extent to show me that they care for me, or they were willing to fight for me, or they're gonna do what it takes to stick around. You know what I mean? It's said and done, but this is the first man to actually show up and do the work. Yeah. And that's why I ain't say no. We gonna do it, and I'm gonna do right by him for the rest of my life.
It's right by you too. Go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
So I would say kind of a similar situation, but we were speaking. Actually, I think we had talked the night before. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him the night before. This is when I was living in Kentucky. And we were a good 14 hours by car away from each other. And I don't do those kind of drives. And so I do my morning routine. I'm very, you know, the same thing, same process every morning. I get up, I would take the dogs outside, you know, I would get dressed, take a shower, get dressed, and then go on to work. And so I was on the phone with my best friend, as I am every morning, and I was coming down my steps, and I saw these rose petals. Well, this girl had just moved in next door to me about a month ago, and I was like, oh, her dude done put these rose petals on the wrong steps, fool. And so I'm going down the steps, and then I turn the corner, and he's just standing over there looking just as goofy. And I'm on the phone, and I'm just like in awe, because in that moment I realized that he was the one for me. But I'm on the phone. I'm trying not to say that to my best friend, because I don't want to go into that deep conversation with him, because I'm about to hang up. And I'm just staring at him across the street, knowing that he had just drove 12 hours from the time we had spoke on, I think on FaceTime, to drive from New Orleans to Hazard, Kentucky, to be there in time for me to go to work, late as usual, but go to work. And so that was the moment that I knew that this was the person for me to do that and to do it where I didn't know it, because I'm Inspector Gadget, I know everything. So to do it where I didn't know, and to surprise me, and to be there for me, and to show so much love at my home, in my places when I knew.
Thank you. And Carmen and Nicole, let me take you off mute. Go right ahead.
You can go ahead.
This is a tough question for me, simply because from the first time we talked on the phone, I knew that it was something special about her. I loved her, and I wanted to be with her, and I wanted to do whatever I could to get her to be with me.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of our relationship, we ran into some bumps in the road, and it wasn't until I was sitting in a jail cell. Let's just be honest. It wasn't until I was sitting in a jail cell from an altercation that we had in the beginning of our relationship, that I knew I had to really care for this woman to react that way from being hurt. So I knew then that I loved her. However, when I was released, I didn't talk to her for about 2 months because I couldn't believe that, it had went that far. So when we did get back in contact, her family was traveling for a wedding for her cousin. Mm-hmm. They were traveling for a wedding. So they were gone about a good month and a half. Mm-hmm. So when she came back, she called me. I finally took her off block, like maybe month and a half. I took her off block. She called me.
You took me off in like 3 weeks.
Okay, whatever, a month. So she called me and she said, hey, can we meet? So we met at the gas station by where I was living at the time. She came back and, we talked. And the thing that really impressed me was that she brought Mariah a shirt back from Disney World, that she still wanted to, she brought me a gift too, but my gift wasn't as important, because if you treat my child with that much love, then, you're doing that because you care for me, not because you have to, but because you care for me. You want to get to know my child, because for a long time when we first got together, she didn't get a chance to meet Mariah. I kept both very separate, because I just never brought anyone home. Everything I did away from home. So she brought Mariah the shirt, and that later that evening, I allowed her to give her the shirt. When I came home from work, they were sitting there. Her and Mariah was watching That's So Raven. And they was just having a conversation, but I could hear the conversation from the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And that just really warmed my heart. And it just showed that, not only was she here to get to know me, but she was actually interested in trying to get to know my daughter and build her own relationship, and it wasn't forced. So I loved her from day one. That is my answer, and I can't really change it. And that's how I ended up in the predicament I was in when I was in the jail cell, because love just make you do some foolish
crazy things.
It makes you do some foolish things, and that's just my honest answer. Like, I know it. Sometimes people think the love we have is so unrealistic, but that is it. It's nothing behind it. Like, that's my wife. I've loved her. I do anything for her, but I've loved her since day one. Even when I was pissed off at her ass, I still loved her.
That's how it is. Carmen.
It's so crazy, because I don't even think we ever discussed like when we first knew that, like we loved each other. And I think that was actually the time that I fell in love with her. Really, it's the same thing. Like, we were gone for like a month after that altercation. It was really bad. I had to get a ride home. I had to call my mom, like, come get me. Like, this is crazy. It was a really bad situation. And I mean, to be honest with you, it was like eye-opening for me, because at that time I was very wrong. So not only did I feel bad, but then now on top of all of that, I have to sort of kind of like come to grips with what I did. And just knowing all the principles that I had been taught, and all the morals that I had been taught, it was like I basically threw them out the window just because I was insecure about who she was. She was older than me. She had her own place. She had a daughter. So at any time, I was more so fearful that you weren't really interested in me just getting out of high school. I got a job, you know, but I mean, I got my own car, but that's about it. At the time, I was living with my mom, and so it was like my insecurities got the best of me, and you know, kind of pushed me into an area where I wasn't honest and forefront, and I would rather like talk to other people than to feel like I'm putting all my peas in one pot, knowing that she could at any moment cut me off because she doesn't need me for anything. And so she, to me, I fell in love with her when literally after all that took place, and I couldn't, you know, like he said, like how Christopher's husband said, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't get himself together. I mean, I'm on basically a whole month out of town pretty much, and it's with me and my entire family, and I'm doing all I can to try to enjoy myself, but nothing would make me smile or make me happy or help me come to like realize what it is that I was missing. And literally, I mean, it was when I came back, I was just going to do whatever it took to get back in, you know, and it was sort of kind of like I was, at the time I was working at Walmart. I was a supervisor at Walmart, and like literally I went to work that day and I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to make a bigger move than this. And I packed all my stuff and I called her and I was like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this, you know, and it was just because she lived on the west side of Atlanta. I lived on the east side. So we were literally about 45 minutes away from each other each drive. And every night that I was at her house, it would take me almost an hour to get home. And it was just like a crazy commute. And so it was like when we dove in, we did it at the same time, and it was full force, and I never went anywhere else.
Okay, so I have just a few, we have just a few minutes left, but there were two things there was one homework assignment that I gave you guys. Yes, I gave my homework. And the other one is something that I'm just going to have you guys do to kind of close it and end it. But I will say that I've enjoyed the conversation. People are in my inbox. Of course, you've seen some of the comments that have come up on the screen. I'm sure people have commented that I can't see because they didn't, you know, go to StreamYard or whatever. But again, I just feel like this is a conversation that we have to have. I believe that for me, I observe people a lot, and I also learn by the example set forth, you know, and so I see a lot of the love examples that I have, and because I've never given up on love, and I know there's a lot of people, a lot of my friends that have never given up on love and won't give up on love. I feel, and the ones who have given up on love, I wanted them to also see that love exists. It's true, it's kind, it's pure, it's powerful, you know, but you have to be receptive of it, you have to be open for it, and you also have to be ready for it, you know. And I would say all the time, people say, well, how do you get ready for a relationship when you're not in one? Well, you know, you can't have people in and out your houses and your doors and all that, sleeping around town, that sort of thing. And you have to kind of prepare yourself. And it's kind of like what I believe Joe said, you know, you have to enjoy being alone and being by yourself and being content. You know, that's also important or whatever, because once you are able to be alone and be with yourself and understand who you are inside and out, then you're able to really welcome love into your heart and into your home and things of that nature. So I just hope that anyone that does come across this particular video or the audio, that they understand, especially in this LGBTQIA plus community, that love exists, love is there, but you have to be willing to not only be accepting of it, but be able to do the work. You know, because marriage is work. I'm sure it is. You know, marriage is hard work. It's hard living with a person, but it's hard being married to them too, I'm sure. You know, so I had you do some homework. It was the 5 love languages. There's words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And you know, I did some research and found out that you can be both. You can have one as your primary and one as your secondary. So I'm not going to ask you, you know, as a couple. I'll ask, you know, I'll just call out your name. So when you took the love language quiz, so Christopher, y'all didn't take it? Oh, y'all didn't take it?
No, we did. We did.
No. I was talking about you, Christopher. You said what?
See, and so he asked me earlier, wasn't there a quiz? And I said, I don't remember.
But here's the thing, even though you didn't take the quiz, I still feel like you should know pretty much what your love language may be. So again, there's words of affirmation. It's something like you always need to hear, you know, affirming words from your partner, acts of service, giving, receiving gifts, quality time, or physical touch. Like, what's most important to you?
So I think what's most important to me is I know when he's in a good place, when everything's like somebody mentioned earlier. We always kiss each other when we first wake up. We always kiss each other when we
That's
first.
what I was gonna say. My God.
We always do that. So we always kiss each other when we first wake up, funky breath and all. It's a real tight kiss, but it's there. No,
not mine, because I usually gargle before I.
Yeah, he sneaks out of the bed to gargle first. I thank the Lord. And so, but like I said, it's in the morning. It's when either one of us leaves the house to go to work. It's when we come back in, and it's when we go to bed. And so that's kind of the affirmation at several points in the day that I love you and you love me, and that everything is okay. If that doesn't happen, then what we know is something's not right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like it's the first thing when we wake up before we start our day, and throughout the day, we always give each other kisses and signs of affection. If that doesn't happen, you got it got somebody got an attitude somewhere.
Affirmation and touch. Would you say those are two? Okay.
Yeah.
So Dustin, what's your love language?
So I'm more physical touch. So that's where I feel the love connection the most.
Okay. What about you, Carmen?
I'm words of affirmation. Physical touch was second for me.
Okay. What about you, Joe?
I'm more of the little subtle hints of affection. I'm more of the leave me a note or send me a text or I don't know, swipe me when I'm walking by. It's just the little things for me.
And with Nicole, you the last one? Okay, go ahead.
I think so, yeah. Mine was active services, like leave me notes, tell me, touch me when I walk by, hold me. And then the second one was words of affirmation.
Okay, great. Mine was words of affirmation. I like being affirmed and, also having that person there and being supportive, emotionally. That's important to me. Physical touch, no, that wasn't my second. I'll make physical touch is probably third. I'm just
yeah.
But I own it. But definitely for me, words of affirmation. So what I want you to do in our last before we go, and of course after we do this, quick exercise, I'll say give you guys a quote of the week, and that's for everyone that's watching, and then we'll end it. So I'm going to have you guys turn to one another. Okay. Hold on now. Let me find the question. So Joe, turn to Dustin and tell him what is it that you love about him.
I love the fact that you are always willing to hear me out and not be quick to judge whatever I'm saying. You kind of just want to understand where I'm coming from.
Okay. I'm not ready for you though, Dustin. So Carmen, I'm gonna flip it. Carmen, what is it that you love about Nicole?
I love the fact that you allow me to be myself. I love the fact that you understand me when I don't understand myself. Thank you for that. I love you.
All right. Adam, what is it that you love about Christopher?
I love that Christopher is everything different than I'm used to. And he just makes my purpose every morning that I wake up stronger to thrive and just be great.
Okay. And Dustin, what is it that you love about Joe?
So I love that Joe is dependable and does care for me a lot. He's always the one to kiss me before he leaves, and showing that affection is something I cherish.
And Christopher, what is it that you love about Adam?
I love your strength, and I love your softness, and I love when you're vulnerable with me. The combination of that is just amazing.
Okay, Nicole, what is it that you love about Carmen?
According to Wikipedia, love encompasses
No, sorry. You must have said, okay, Google.
blind virtue or good habit.
Hush, girl.
Personal
Okay, Google. Stop.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, hold on. Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, seriously. I love how creative you are. I love that you're strong for me when I'm too weak to be strong for myself. I love the way that you love me. I love the way that you love God, and I love your family values. And I love you so much. Thank you.
All right, and I just love. Like, seriously. Does anyone have any final words? But your final words being to those that are out there watching that are single, that are single and dating, single and wondering, single and just kind of just give us some final words, whatever they may be, because I think that we're more apt to listen to people who have sustained, relationships and sustained marriage, and just have a beautiful working relationship. So whatever your final words are, and we'll end it. So whoever wants to go, just raise your hand. Okay. Nicole and Carmen, and then we're going to ask Chris, and we'll save Dustin.
Okay, so I would say be open, be willing to compromise. Remember to set boundaries and don't have expectations, because where you don't have expectations, there's no room for disappointment. So that would be what I would say to someone that's trying to get to know someone. Just go in with a clear mind and be open, and just see where it could go. That's yeah.
I would have to say to first and foremost learn yourself, because that's the most important thing. If you know the things that you like, then when you are with someone else, you can express those things properly. You can open up and say, this is what I do like, this is what I don't like, etc. Also, keep that communication line open with the person who you are deciding to be with. Let them know when they hurt you or when something doesn't feel right. Like I said, that open communication is very, very vital in any relationship. With that being said, just remember, when you do decide to be with somebody, don't forget the small things like thank you. I appreciate you. You're still the love of my life. I love you with all my heart. Those things are still very valid things to say to a person, no matter how long you've been with them, whether it's just a week or two, or if it's a year or two, or plus that.
Thank you. Christopher and Adam.
Well, I would say I'm here right now. Choose love. If love is in your heart, if love is for you, if you desire a relationship and marriage and being with someone forever, choose love. Lead with love. Wake up every day. Go to work with love. Let love just shine bright. And I truly believe that's why love found me, because I was a person that always chose to love, no matter if love hurt me. I gave myself time to heal from that, but I still moved on and chose to love. Don't choose the booty call. Don't choose the one-night stand. Choose love. If that's what you want to do, love. Just choose it. Be faithful to it. Believe in it. Behave as love behaves, and it will happen for you. That's what I would say.
And I would say, kind of piggybacking on that and what others have said, to love yourself. You have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And part of that is knowing who you are. But part of that is enjoying who you are as a person, because you can't share with somebody else all that's inside of you if you don't love what's there first. And part of your loving yourself is knowing if you're in a situation that's not going to work. All relationships aren't going to work. Someone told me one time, 99% of relationships are supposed to fail. And that's okay. We learn from them and go forward. And so you have to know, and in your heart of hearts, when a relationship or a situation isn't for you. And when one is. So focus on those relationships that are for you and that are prospering for you, and let those other relationships go. It's okay. I think people need to know that it's okay if a relationship doesn't work out. A lot of people don't say that. That's okay. It wasn't meant to work out. And there's something else for you. There's another person for you. And it's okay to do that. But take that time to heal yourself, learn why it didn't work, so that you can be a better person for it when that person comes along for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Words of wisdom. Okay. Go ahead, Dustin and Joe. Final words.
I would say if you ever find yourself in a relationship where you feel like you love the person more than they love you, then it's just time to move on, because you'll never get out what you want from that relationship. And communication is probably the second biggest thing that I would suggest.
And I would suggest be observant. Be observant of yourself. Be observant how you're going to react to certain things. Be observant to how you feel in the moment and voice those feelings, because voicing those feelings are going to allow you to, one, get them out, but two, be understood. Because being understood is very valuable in a relationship, because if you can't get the person to feel and understand who you are and how you're feeling, then you're going to end up nowhere, because they don't know how you feel. They don't understand where you're coming from. So how can the relationship get anywhere if they don't understand that?
Love it. Love it. Well, again, I want to say publicly, thank you guys so very much for being a part of this show, taking an hour and 45 minutes out of your day. I really appreciate it, and I hope that people, again, as I said before, they take something from it. For me, I'm an observer, I'm a watcher. I like to have conversation with people, and I want to digest as much as I can. So even in this moment of we having conversation and me moderating or hosting, I've learned a lot. And I think that in relationships, we just have to continue to want to grow and want to be better. And as Adam said, choose love. I think that's the best thing. Choose love over everything. So again, thank you guys so much. For those of you who are watching, make sure that you share this live. I see you guys are sharing on on Facebook, commenting. I thank you so very much. And before I go, there's always a quote of the week. So let me put it up here. It's really quick too. The quote of the week says, "Don't talk, just act. Don't say, just show. Don't promise, just prove." Again, don't talk, just act. Don't say, just show. Don't promise, just prove. Until next time, everyone be blessed. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Hold the line, people. Y'all stay on. Thank you, guys.